And this kind of brings us into my second talking point, which was frequency. And we've actually made some mistakes on frequency, and we're rethinking our upload frequency and our recording frequency. Is that at first it was like, okay, we're gonna do one video a week, and then we're like, I said, let's do 2 videos a week because it's twice as much content. We'll get twice as good, twice as fast, you know. But
Yeah.
then it became 2 hour-long podcasts a week in two people's lives that are working jobs, you know, and have lives other than that. It's hard to have good content for 2 episodes a week. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If you're not like a full-time podcaster and that's not your job, you know. So what we've decided to do is we're going to go to 1 full episode a week and then release clips because the YouTube algorithm likes frequent uploads. But I think that the quality of the podcast is going to go up with only 1 podcast a week because we'll have that much more time to develop a good podcast, you know?
Yeah. We're both on the same frequency there.
Well, and some people could say, well, Joe Rogan uploads 5 days a week. I'm like, well, Joe Rogan is the biggest podcast in the world, and he has ridiculously interesting guests every day.
Yeah. I mean, he also had fame before the podcast. So he didn't start out podcasting. He was like a celebrity that said, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. So he already had like a following to go and listen to it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if you have a following, great. There's a lot of YouTubers that are starting podcasts now. And I think people are seeing it as, you know how YouTubers, they were like, my main channel, and then, oh, I'm going to make a gaming channel too.
Yeah.
And then someone decided, let's do merch too.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's every YouTuber starting a podcast. So it's just becoming like another avenue of like a way to diversify. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, it's extra income. I mean, they already have the following, so why not?
Yeah. And it's smart for them. Like if you have a following somewhere, you should try to double your money. And like you have X amount of followers on Instagram, you should try to be like, hey, subscribe my YouTube or follow me on Twitter or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's weird because podcasting is one of the oldest platforms out of all of them, but it seems to have been slept on for years.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know? I don't know why, but it just has.
Yeah, I mean, I used to remember like when I had like my first iPod Touch, and like you'd go to like the iTunes store, and it was like a podcast section. I was like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? They just weren't. People didn't care about them. I guess it was like the
Well, and
best way to say it.
when you're a kid, you're not gonna sit down and listen to an hour-long podcast. You want the instant payoff of like a 3-minute song,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
But I mean also more like the fact that like no one really had podcasts out that I mean like no people had podcasts, but it was like the History Channel podcast. You know what I mean? There wasn't a
Mhm.
podcast for every like genre. I guess was the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, you can type in like how to walk your dog, and there's a whole bunch of podcasts on just walking
Yeah, yeah,
dogs.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, for sure.
It's interesting. I don't know if that's good or bad. It just kind of is what it is. Um, but yeah, figure out your frequency. Figure out how your length too. Like, are you gonna have a 2-hour podcast? You're gonna have a 10-minute podcast because there's very successful podcasts that are very short and very long. You know, so figure out how long you can carry an episode and stick to it and be consistent. Like if you have been doing hour-long podcasts for X amount of time, and then you all of a sudden you cut your main episodes in half, people might be like, whoa, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So pick a length. For us, it's about 50 minutes is what we've decided. And those are our main episodes. And then obviously we have clips that are kind of anywhere in, like 4 to 8 minutes is what I try to keep the clips at, you know?